Planning for Teach. This lesson that has been specifically planned to remedy mistakes and misconception. Planning means analyzing and studying the objective as well as the way in which we will achieve them. It is a method of action to decide what we are going to do and why. It helps the teacher to be well prepared and be aware of what he or she intends on teaching the students. Planning for a teach is important in a sense that it guides us to what to follow and what to do. In planning for a teach, we have focus. Perhaps the most important aspect effective reteach is focus. We all know that focus is important because it is a gateway to all thinking, perceptions, memory learning, and decision making. Without good focus, all aspects of your ability to think will suffer. A simple reality, if you can't focus effectively, you can't think effectively. Next is, what should I reteach the low-hanging fruit? So, what question to reteach are the simpler words on in the exam? A starting point has to be looked at the data, but with a healthy dose of skepticism. When I say data, it means information. This could be from a questions level analysis, students' exam papers, or student work. What you are looking for the low-hanging fruit, these are the questions where students underperform, achieve marks below comparable groups. If you focus your reteach session on these areas, then students are more likely to find success. If you're working with teachers who have never had much feedback on their teaching or who are new to the profession, there are solid reasons to make specific suggestions. If a small change can have a big impact, there's no reason to ignore the opportunity. It's important to understand, though, that this is the low-hanging fruit of improvement in our profession. The essay is the most obvious set of changes to make picking this fruit may take us from mediocre to good. What should I reteach? The key concept. Then there are the concepts that are hard but fundamental. Many students will have struggled with these questions. These concepts are considered so important that they are worth persevering with because they will students to access many other questions and concepts within the subject. An example from science might be the concept validity, not necessarily an essay concept to understand, but it's a concept that is so fundamental to understanding the discipline of science that we cannot ignore it. It also helps the learner generalize from the teaching context to other. The concept a person or group chooses as a key in a subject will vary according to their view of that subject and their purposes. In selecting the set of these concepts, a teacher working with young children in science may choose a different set of an academic chemist. Working with undergraduates, throughout, you will be encouraged to reflect on how you can use key concepts when planning your curriculum. In the end, there is a glossary of keywords and phrases and some suggestions about what you will do next. And then do it differently. Once you identified what you want to reteach, then you have to think how you're going to close the gap. Simply repeating how you thought the first time probably not to work. Start by completing the questions. Students struggle on identifying what knowledge and vocabulary students need to know. First is, write the 3 questions you want students to be able to answer by the end in your lessons. And importantly, script the students' response. You are expecting them sequence this knowledge through your lesson and use multiple choices questions to dig into understanding and make thinking visible. If you're going to repeat your activity you just did, it is very boring. That's why you need to do it differently. Because it is best if you make the activity better than the present activity to make it worth the repeating. Next is per assessment in science. Per assessment is much more than students marking books. It can be a very powerful way to bring about learning, although the setup needs careful consideration to be effective. The key advantage of per assessment is that it focuses students' attention on what is exactly important. Peer assessment is one way that students can internalize the characteristic of quality. It increases students' responsibility and autonomy, and help moves the students from passive learner to active learner. Peer Peer assessment provides opportunity for students to practice working with others and communicating with others, and helping others to improve, all of which are important skills for the increasingly collaborative world in which we live. Another benefits of peer assessment is that students can adjust their own work and thinking by investigating the work of other students, must feel that the classroom is a safe and supportive environment. For peer assessment, they must trust each other to provide honest and constructive feedback. This allows them to become comfortable with one another, which increases the quality of the feedback. It does help to learn how to receive feedback from different people. So, educators should encourage students to get feedback from all learners throughout the year. Providing peer feedback and work out toward peer assessment may not be familiar to all students. So building peer assessment should be built into the classroom learning goals, and with its own rubric or peer assessment is more effective when students are accessing against a predetermined set. Additionally, it can be very challenging, and you will want to make sure that you provide practice and support before, during, and after the process. So, set a practice session in which you provide a sample writing assignment or speaking. Marking and written feedback in science. Feedback sets at the top of Professor John Hattie's table of effect sizes on education performance. Feedback, written feedback, important part of overall feedback. Machine and give teacher a unique opportunity on students, allowing feedback to take place in both directions. Writing detailed feedback on individual pieces is incredibly time-consuming. Often the pressure to get the marking done means we have to resort to generic comments or easy to set targets, such as use more keywords in your answers. A more sustainable approach is to capture common errors and mistakes during rapid marking, then use the information to perform a whole class reteach at the start of the next lesson. Do make sure you set tasks that are sufficiently diagnostic to facilitate useful feedback from an expert. Feedback is phrased in a way that students can understand and it's relevant to future work. We want to improve the students. The feedback between pupils and teacher is thoughtful, reflected, and focused to evoke and explore understanding of key concepts. Make sure you write the feedback near with the errors occurs in the text. Effective written feedback provides students with a record of what they are doing well, what needs improvement, and suggested next steps. Written feedback also needs to be timely written in a manner that is understandable to the students and actionable so that the students can make revision. And the last is assessing scientific skills. Scientific skills defined to be the abilities necessary in order to make a scientific research. It is important for an individual to possess those qualities in order to make sound and proper scientific argument. Science process skills are a set of skills used in scientific activities. Each activities are expected to facilitate students to develop science process skills such as observing, inferring, predicting, asking questions, constructing hypotheses, designing experiments, applying concepts, and communicating. And the assessment maps for tracking scientific skills. This can be used by students and teachers to track progress of being able to carry out some specific scientific skills. Lessons can be planned to develop specific skills, and assessment maps used to record students' progress toward mastering them. The codes linked to the scientific skills listed in the mapping documents available. Each student is given an assessment map to keep in their book. When they demonstrate mastery of specific skills, the teacher and students or partner fix the relevant skills on their assessment maps.